let's get the framing right. That looks about good. All right, what's your name and what do you do?
Roger, and I'm a retired architect.
Nice. How long have you live in this city?
Yes.
How long have you lived in Philadelphia?
42 years.
Nice. And you grew up here?
I grew up in the area.
In the area. What do you think makes you a Philadelphian?
Well, one, the fact that I've lived here more years than I haven't.
Okay. But you don't. Do you take like pride in being a Philadelphian, or is it more of just
Most of the time, yes.
most of the time? Okay. So you're a former architect. What type of architecture did you work on?
Oh, wow. Pretty much the entire gamut. I think it would be easier for me to say what types of projects I didn't.
You didn't do. Okay, yeah.
do.
What didn't you do?
Prisons, justice centers, nuclear power plants, and industrial facilities, things like that.
Is that purposeful? Would you not work on those buildings? Or?
It was actually more market driven than anything else.
Okay. Wait, can you explain that to me a little bit? What do you mean? Like market driven, like
there aren't that many nuclear power plants being designed. There are industrial facilities. A lot of manufacturing jobs went overseas, so the industrial facility design and construction were kind of reduced in scale.
Yeah.
So there wasn't that much work. In other words.
Okay. I see. So, can you explain to me the relation to art that architecture has? Because I know it's like what percent of it is like design and what percent of it is like, kind of more having to suit like the builders
And the developers.
Yeah.
Yes. I would say that as an architect, the most important part is design. But if I put on the developer or the builder's hat, I would say that the financial part of it was the most important part. And it probably still is. And it is, I should say.
Do you think you found your passion with architecture?
Oh, yeah.
You did?
I've known since I was a child.
Really?
I wanted to be an architect.
What was the first sign to you?
That I wanted to be an architect?
Yeah.
It was my 6th grade teacher telling me if I boned up on my arithmetic, I should become an architect.
Okay. It's funny the impact that teachers can have.
That's right.
Especially in those very formative years. So what do you find yourself doing now that you've moved away from architecture?
I haven't really moved away from architecture, but I'm still an architect. I mean, I'm still licensed. I still can practice. I even have my own firm and so forth. But what I've done is just relax. I told people I wasn't going to do anything in retirement, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Almost absolutely nothing.
Do you find it more difficult to find passions in retirement, or do you think that the freedom allows you to kind of explore and like get to know yourself better?
No, I've gotten into the arts more outside of architecture. I've gotten into theater more than I did before. Music, I'm more into music now than I was before, and I'm more into film.
Film. Yeah. Okay.
All kinds of music. It goes the entire realm, historic all the way up to contemporary.
Now, do you play instruments or? Yeah. What do you play?
Pretty much all the woodwinds except for the flutes,
I see.
and used to play the string bass.
Do you have opportunities to kind of perform that?
They're a little tough to get into because you have to be more on the professional side.
Yeah. I'm a drummer. I'm a jazz drummer, and I mean I'll sit in some places, but like it's also different being in high school, because I'm like I can go like play with my band, and my teacher's always hosting stuff, so there's different opportunities at this age. All right, can I ask you a few questions and I'll let you go?
Sure.
Yeah. All right.
It's high school, great years.
Yeah, great years. This is my my junior project. I decided that for me, instead of like, I have the opportunity to go intern somewhere as well. Like, I could go. I have connections at Penn or like in psychology. But I figured like like now is the only time that I'm gonna be able to experience like what it's like to like make a film, like start to finish, or like have like a project that I'm proud of, you know. And I think like what I'm focusing on with this project is unity, and like making, like drawing the connection that people on the street have, because I find that there's so much like anger and so much like fear regarding like people you just meet, you know. And it's still difficult for me to approach people, but it's like I'm trying to like break that narrative that there's any difference between one and the other.
No, I was going to say that was pretty brave of you to approach me like that, but
yeah, it's definitely difficult, because I mean, I'm glad. I mean, like, of course you accepted, but so many people deny. All right. So let's see this one. Friends play some of the most pivotal roles in like growing up. How are the roles of your friends changing as you venture further into your life / adulthood?
Maybe you don't want to ask me that question, because a lot of my friends have passed. So
Okay.
it's kind of like the older you get, the more you realize how valuable friends are, because they may not be there.
Do you still find yourself making new friends?
Sometimes, yes. It's harder.
It's harder
as you get older. Yeah.
Explain that to me. How is it hard? I feel like I hear that a lot.
I think that I think when I was younger, it was easier for me to be open to people. It was easier for me to be open to relationships. It's easier for me to kind of pour my heart out to people. As I got older, I learned life lessons and so forth and all that cliche stuff. Not as willing, not as open. Plus, kind of afraid to make new friends and then just lose them.
But do you feel like you've become more comfortable with yourself?
Oh yeah. Definitely comfortable with my skin.
Then what's the fear with opening up?
Getting hurt, getting rejected, getting used, not getting what you thought you were going to get out of a relationship. I found that most relationships that I've had, or friendships I've had with people, were transactional rather than real, honest to goodness friendships.
Like that's you know.
So enjoy the friendships that we have now. Believe me.
Yeah, no, I definitely like there is enough emphasis on kind of stepping back and like taking it all in, but like I think that I've tried to incorporate that a little bit more with like my life. But I think it's also the transactional relationships that you brought up, that's like very pertinent to like I think my years, like high school. I think like I know so many people. I've had a lot of friends. It's like some people just want that hit of like being like seen a certain way, and I think that like in high school, like it's a lot of what people seek is solely like a kind of connection that benefits them, you know. So I think that's very interesting.
Oh, I think I don't know a whole lot of people. That's not true. I do know some people in your generation, but I find that especially the generation right before you, image consciousness and those kinds of things. I'm almost like a huge amount of superficial things are so important to these people, and they're basically going to find out when they stop looking youthful. All that stuff kind of doesn't become as important anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, for a lot of people. Some people, obviously, they go all the way until their 90s trying to look like them.
Yeah, which is
looks, that thing, appearances, being charming to people. But I figure best lesson I ever learned was just be yourself. Yeah. Not all people are going to like you, but the ones that do truly are your friends.
Yeah. Did you ever have kids?
No, I didn't. And that's the one thing I regret.
Really?
Yeah. I wish I did.
Did you want kids when you were?
No.
No.
Clearly, otherwise I would have had them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting topic, like right now, like for like in our world where there's so much like division, is like people wanting to bring in kids into this world. Or some people are the opposite, and they're like, oh, I have to have kids now because it's all gonna hit the fan soon. But it's, it's a tough battle.
What was it that I heard so many times? Gloria Steinem, the feminist, one of the leaders of the women's movement back in the 60s and 70s and so forth, said, at first said you can have it all, and then said to women after she became older, more mature, and learned some things that you can't have it all. So it's sort of like, I would say, set your priorities, and I think you know in your heart what you want and what you don't want. And children are such an incredible responsibility, and you can't slough it off on other people.
Yeah.
It's as parent, it's your responsibility.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm not speaking from experience, but I've known enough people with children to know that it really is.
And I think there's nothing that changes you more than having kids. I think knowing my parents, and kind of getting an idea of who they were before, they met each other and they had me and my brother. I think it definitely calms you down a lot and makes you very different. I think, and I think that's something that, I'm at this point I'm looking for change, but I don't know if that's always gonna be like that. But I think that's something that's I want to see in myself, because I think the qualities that you get out of having
embrace it, embrace the feeling, embrace the exploration.
Yeah,
these are some of the best years of your life. You're gonna really look back on these years and say, wow, that you're either gonna say they were the best years of my life, or you're gonna look back on it maybe thinking, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that, but never regret it.
What do you think? Do you look back on my years, like when you were 17? I'm 17. Do you ever look back and think I should have done it this way or this way, or?
No. As a matter of fact, somebody asked me, if you could go back in time, where would you like to go? And I said, summer of 1975. I don't want to know anything that I knew beyond that year. Yeah. I want to be that exact same person all over again, and just live that summer all over again. It was fantastic.
What happened in that summer that made it so magical?
I graduated from high school. I had a car. I had a job. I had a girlfriend. I had all the things that high schoolers find important, and they all meant in that summer. They all came to fruition, or at least the thought of them. The realization of it all came to me and said, wow, this is really fantastic.
Yeah, I think I think that I know that I'm going to look back on it and, Okay, so I have another question. Do you ever think that you wish you would have followed a passion more in depth when in your youth?
Well, business-wise, probably, no, I can't say that. I followed the passion that I wanted to follow, and that was architecture.
Yeah.
I mean, it took an enormous amount of my time for 5 years, and I had to forego even my own personal life for a good bit of that time. So, but I'm glad that I did it.
Yeah.
Because that was what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do with my life. I've gotten some amazing opportunities to do work that made society better, and the projects that provided housing for people who couldn't afford it, and projects for healthcare that people who can't afford it could go to, and they weren't just boxes with exam rooms in them. They were events, they were adventures. So I was really lucky that I got to do that.
Yeah. Can you kind of take me through some of those projects and which one meant the most to you?
Probably there are some projects over in Camden. I never thought that I would be doing projects in Camden, but Camden being a very poor city, there's a health center. It's called Camden Ambulatory Medicine, CamCare, and I did their headquarters building for them. It's if you drive over the Benjamin Franklin Bridge and you go south on 676, and right as you go around the bend a little bit there, look to the right, there's this silver metallic building on the right, wedge shape, that is CamCare. The Ray and Joan Brock Core Community Center for Salvation Army over in also in Camden. Yeah, that was an amazing project.
Yeah.
That do the most good. So I kind of felt like, wow, this is what an opportunity to contribute, whatever's in here and in here to that project and to the community. It was great. There are just a couple of examples.
Did you know that those were going to be special when you were creating them?
Oh yeah, because I treated them that way.
Right.
I mean, oh yeah. As a matter of fact, the Cam Care project, when I presented the final design to the board.
Applause.
Oh, the Cam Care project was the final design. Myself and the team were really excited about the final design we'd made. We put together this incredible presentation and went to the board and presented that design to them. And when the presentation was finished, the board got on their feet and applauded, gave a standing ovation. It was the first and only time that I ever got a standing ovation for a presentation at a board meeting like that.
What did you think of that? Like in the moment, what were you thinking?
I was elated. I was on, cloud nine, floating in the air. That's the kind of, it's actually, in some cases, it's actually worth more than the architectural fee you get for the project to know that people appreciate it that much.
Yeah, it's like, I think that praise and applause is something that, like, I seek, like, a lot, in my life, because, I'm really invested in my, like, my music, and, I think, I'm an athlete. I play squash, and that's it's kind of like golf, where people like don't really applaud very much, and it it kind of grinds my gears, because it's like I'm putting so much into this, but then when there are people there, I'm always like, subconsciously even, I play so much better because I know that like somebody's looking. And it's also like, I think it's my personality when I'm in, like in conversation as well. I think that, with my friends, I'm like kind of like the clown, or like the funny one. I'm always looking for like the reaction.
Well, if you didn't, you wouldn't be human, would you?
No, exactly. I think that, I think it's still important.
I think most people, it's important.
Yeah.
To most people.
Yeah.
If they don't think so, then I don't think they're being honest with themselves.
Yeah, I think so. How have you embraced? We already got into this one. I have a few more that I want to ask. Or one more, two more.
Just don't lose that card.
Yeah.
Or that battery.
Yeah.
Oh wait, that's the battery.
That's the battery. Okay, so let's go into this one. So, as you progress through your life, do you find yourself searching for answers more, like with concluding with facts, or with feelings, or like, do you let your emotions drive you, or do you let like some sort of quantitative or qualitative evidence guide your decisions?
I think through my life, the more mature, quote unquote, I got, the more I try to push the emotions back. And I noticed in that period of time, or those periods of time, that when I pushed the emotions back and held them back, the passion wasn't evident, and the ideas, the flow of ideas and creativity were not as evident. So I've stopped doing that. I mean, I try to keep emotions into it. A lot of people are uncomfortable with people being emotional. As a matter of fact, I think in this country it's a major critique. Oh, you're too emotional. That kind of thing. I think that emotions are a good thing. I think they reveal parts of people's personalities that you wouldn't understand if they weren't emotional. So, I mean, obviously there are positive and negative emotions and that kind of thing, but I would rather that people be emotional, happy, laughing, and that kind of thing, rather than screaming and fighting and getting ready to kill someone.
Yeah. Do you feel that has changed in society, or is that something that you've changed in yourself?
I think the one constant is clear that humans are always going to be humans. That if you look back in history, the time period that you think we're going through right now, we've already been through. Humanity's been through scores of times, and it's there. You'll always find some similarities. So, and human beings have risen or fallen or whatever to the occasion exactly the same way. Just that the circumstances and the date are different. That's all. And me, I feel a lot more comfortable and a lot more happy being, showing my emotions and being compassionate and being passionate about things rather than being staid and quiet and so forth. Plus, it's kind of boring, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what, I think, like, I feel like I'm kind of in sometimes a bit of a pressure cooker, like experience, like with my school, and I think like I have so many friends that like just completely ignore how they feel and what they are like
more worried about what other people think of them as opposed
just
to
like
who they are.
Just like college, like or and of course that's the next chapter of our life. That's the big next thing that we're doing is college. Everybody at like my school is like going to college, and we're all like, prepping for that.
It's a lot different.
It's very different. I mean, I'm excited for it, but I think that
you have to apply yourself more. Teachers are not writing you in college. They don't care whether you do your assignments or not. They just give you that grade and that's it. So you really have to push yourself more, and you have to be more involved. And it's an investment too. Mm-hmm. So I always thought of it that way. It was an investment, and I put more hard work in it. But I was doing what I wanted to do. So
what was like the scene going into, like, at the end of high school, getting into college? What was that like?
Well, that was the summer of 1975, and that was a really great summer. So, I mean, it was a wonderful transition kind of thing. Yeah, gliding into college was totally different. It was the first time I had moved away from home for an extended period of time.
Where did you go? How far?
I went to Penn State, so it wasn't that far away. But
it's not home. Like, it's definitely not.
I didn't have to hop on. I didn't have to get a ticket and hop on a plane and fly home.
Yes, yeah.
But I didn't have a car, so it was a lot. It was a lot different, and you weren't allowed to have cars back then.
Yeah.
So it was terrific. I mean, I met some incredible people. I've met some people that some of them still are friends for the rest of my life, and it took a while to get the experience to register in my brain. You get that aha moment sometimes where you're thinking, so this is what it's all about. That kind of thing. That's the wonderful thing about being in college and secondary education and so forth. And the don't try to just get the work done. Really involve yourself in it and be interested in it. I mean, obviously there are going to be subjects where it's almost impossible to do.
Yeah.
But there are going to be subjects that you may not understand things, but just dive in and really immerse yourself in it. And believe me, the lesson will, as long as you're open to the ideas, you're going to come to a realization that of things that you just never knew existed or that weren't.
And I think that there's so much knowledge that every university holds, and I think that people forget that, and they look at, like, my friends, my peers nitpick the differences between one Ivy League and the next, and not that they could go to any university and get like more knowledge. Like, every university holds more knowledge than any person has ever held. Like there's nobody who knows more than a university. And it's like how are you going to deny like the opportunity to be in this like setting? I mean, like, where you can learn so much. And I think that's like I find it more and more. I find it kind of. I'm moving away from those from my peers that are stuck in that way a little bit more. And I think it's
well, the one thing that I think people need to understand, and they probably don't understand it until they've been out of school for 20 years or more, that it isn't necessarily, the most important thing isn't the place where you go to school. It's how you engage in the school you're going. And once the students realize that, then I think the experience becomes that much more special to that individual. When you start thinking about what people are going to think about what school you went to or something like that, then that just clouds the whole.
Yeah. So I think it's just like it's such a. It only matters like 1 year after we graduate, I think. And of course, I still have personal goals, but
unless you're going to grad school and doing your PhD and that's a little different.
How many people in the past 20 years have asked you where you went to college? Like in a sense where it mattered, not in an interest, you know.
I don't remember anybody doing that. As a matter of fact,
aside from me,
my curriculum vitae, if you will. Mm-hmm. Nobody cares about it, and nobody wants to know what grades I made. Although I got 4.0s all the time, and that was just for the camera, not.
Yeah. No, he got 4.0s all the time, all the time,
all the time because I was doing what I wanted to do, and definitely engaged myself. And nobody cares. They don't care what year I graduated. They don't care who I graduated with or whatever. It's not a topic of conversation. They're more interested in, when they do engage me, they're more interested in what have I done? Just like you asked.
And I think
that's a number one question for architects. What kind of architecture do you do? And it's a really tough question to ask because it's sort of like there's no set answer. I mean, it's not like, oh, I'm in insurance, and you say, well, what are you? I'm an actuarial. Or an actuary.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah. I mean, my question was, like, of course, I have no idea anything about architecture. My question was more like, what type of buildings did you design? You know, like that's what
Would you be able to see? Yeah, you'd be able to see some. There are some buildings out there that I designed and never built that aren't there anymore, and that is kind of an age-related thing. I mean, it makes me feel old to think that there was a building that I designed a long time ago and it's served its purpose and then it was torn down and replaced with something else. I mean,
how do you feel about that?
I don't know.
That's your art. You know?
Well, it's part of it's just part of American society. Where I mean, I know that there are societies that are throwaway, but America seems to be more. They're not complacent about the way they're not sentimental. Buildings don't have the same sentiment. I mean, I'm looking at the art museum as I'm saying this, and thinking, no one would dare tear that building down. Yeah. But in 50 years, it may have to be torn down. You never know. But I think Horst Trumbauer did a great design, and for the 1920s, and the construction of it was solid. So I don't think they may have some issues with the masonry, but it'll just be maintenance issues. Now, it's a Penn's Landing Great Plaza. I worked on the design of the paving and so forth on that when I worked for Pope Linder Associates way back. And I'm seeing every other month I see a new design for Penn's Landing, and the Great Plaza's gone. So, and it was a $27 million project in the early 1980s. Yeah. So imagine what it's worth now, or what it would cost to build it now, and then just scraping it and throwing it away to do something else that may not last even that long.
I think that that was a very like shocking statement, you know, that like, I don't know why I had such a reaction to it, but I think like I guess thinking about it now, like architects are one of the only artists that like readily or like commonly have their art like just destroyed, like demolished. And I mean, of course it's I mean, I don't know if it's there.
Well, then there are people who are playwrights and whatnot, screenwriters and whatnot, and then some critic comes along and just completely destroys what their years or two years work with an article or something like that. I was always told that look at architecture as it's frozen poetry, which I think is kind of self-serving statement, but still, it's an interesting way to think about it. But and it's it has so many different layers, especially utilitarian layers. So it's kind of it's a major challenge, and I thought I was up to it. So I thought, yeah, go for it. Do
Okay. This is the last thing. I have to cut it off at 30 minutes. Can you say something to the camera? A message that we have another guest, a squirrel. Can you just share a message to the people that will be seeing this? So like people my age, you know, like what it was, just come here and spit some wisdom for the camera. I'm putting you on the spot, but you've said so many good things in this interview. I wanna highlight more of what you have to say.
Well, people, all I can say is these are some of the best years of your life. Enjoy the heck out of them. I say get what you can out of life, get what you can out of school, immerse yourself into the activities and into the friendships and into the adventures that you're on. If you feel it's right, do it. If you feel it's not going to hurt other people, do it. If it makes you feel whole, do it. I would say also that when you look back on these years, you're going to be surprised how important they are and how much they mean to you. Believe me, I know I do. And that was almost 50 years ago. So,
yeah. All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
My name is Walter.
Walter, okay.
Your name
again? Roger.
Roger.
My